helping in nurturing relationships. So our focus is going to be on how to cultivate those. And as rare, as not so uncommon as it is, but we also have some exemplary personalities, and then those persons with whom we want to connect with and relate, and that's how we come together. And then we also weigh on their speech, not just with their talk, with their behavior. So today we have the fortune of coming across one of those personalities, Rupa Swami. He's been practicing the Bhakti Yoga for more than 5 decades, and he epitomizes the speech, not just matching with the behavior, but he emphasizes on the relationships as a means to cultivate that positively spirituality. It's to succeed in anything. How do we succeed in spiritual life? So through him, we can learn some of those concepts today. And it's about 5 decades ago or so that he, in one of these college campuses, came across this Bhakti Yoga. And then ever since he's been steadily practicing, not only practicing, but also influencing positively the lives of others who he comes in contact with, and personally investing in their relationships. So I'm fortunate enough, it's about around this time, 21 years ago, in Chicago, I came across him. And the first time I met, it was a transformative experience for me. I believe some of you have met him before, but for some of you, this may be the first time. I can promise you around big positive ride in your lives. Make the best of it. And we will have the talk by him on the relationships. At the end, we will open up for questions and answers. And also, for 5 to 10 minutes, we'll do some musical meditation. To conclude our program for tonight, which till we do another 30 minutes. So please don't miss. Okay? So I will leave with that and turn it over to
We got the best part. There's food at the end.
Yes, thank you. So again, we have all been used to the yoga thing for something right now, and as they're doing yoga, we out of respect, take our palms, hold them together.
How many of you are practicing yoga? Semi.
Stretching.
The title of the club is a Bhakti Yoga Club. I'm curious. This is not his usual way to start discussion. You don't practice yoga, but you're attracted to Bhakti Yoga. What's the appeal? How can I be of service to you? That's the purpose behind the question. I want to connect. Do something, be of meaningful value to you.
I mean, I guess I didn't like raise my hand because I feel like I don't do too much like very consistently outside of coming to these meetings on Friday. But I think what draws me to it is like just the ideals of like aligning yourself, just being the president, just being in like a role.
Okay. Where does Bhakti Yoga, I have an answer, but I'll ask you. Where does Bhakti Yoga fit into that? You're finding out.
Like at least what we do here, I think.
Oh, thank you. Like, I really like the way that we apply like ancient wisdom about like these yogic practices to like our lives now, and especially in like the context of like being college students. I think like yoga can help handle like a lot of the stressors and like anxiety and like a lot of the overwhelming forces that we have to deal with every day.
Tomorrow, I'm going to be at the University of University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. And the topic is going to be art of meditation, overcoming negative emotions, the stressors, etc. There's others besides that one, but negative emotions and relationships are common, my experience is common concerns for people, younger generation, but people in general. And little subtitle is the wisdom of ancient India, speaking on relationships, because not just that modern people. Do I need to have a microphone? Yes. There's a port. It's in the other one. Okay. Welcome. I want to say a little something about the Bhagavad Gita, because that's ABC of the wisdom from ancient India. Bhagavad Gita, one way of describing what Bhagavad Gita is, it's a treatise on yoga systems. It's kind of like a ladder, and it starts with the goal is to know who you are, so that you can live your life in reality rather than an illusion of who you aren't, trying to be something you're not, and finding happiness. So it speaks about knowing who you are through different methods, systems of yoga. One of those systems of yoga is what you do, or yoga of work, or karma yoga. And the goal of karma yoga is, or the fruit of it is, to work in alignment with who you really are, as opposed to who you really aren't, and thus work without attachment to the fruits of your work, because people who don't know who they are, they think that happiness is getting something that you don't have, and you get something that you don't have through working for it, and you get that something, and you enjoy it. That's called karma. Work with a fruitive result. So the first stage of yoga in Bhagavad Gita is working with a different consciousness, alignment with who you really are, and acting according to your nature without attachment to the fruits of your work, and being the enjoyer of the fruits of your work. I'm putting in simple language what it is. And then as that becomes more realized, then there's gyan, or knowledge. Like the Greek word is Gnosticism, knowing who you are, and going more deeply into that realm of knowledge, and with that realm of knowledge becoming acquainted with the all-pervasive spiritual reality of all things. Then comes meditation, dhyan, and going more inwardly, and then bhakti is described in Bhagavad Gita. It's the final or topmost stage of the yoga ladder, where all those things are combined, and you live your life using this. I like the word that you used, in alignment with, or in integrity with, the ultimate reality that's what the human form of life is meant to achieve, and being resonant with who you really are all the meanwhile. So that's Bhakti Yoga. And this is the Bhakti Yoga Club. So welcome to the Bhakti Yoga Club. And we're going to be discussing just the topic of relationships, because it's important. And on purpose, the title is a little puzzling, like currency of relationship. Currency is money. And so what does currency of relationships have to do with relationships? Because it's not about money, it's about... So the sense of having a relationship that's more meaningful than the material sense of what a relationship is, and that's the subtitle, pure and impure. And the reference source is these two personalities. They're learned personalities that wrote many, many books. And one of the persons who's the primary person who we're going to be drawing his teachings from is Rupa Goswami. And this is just a very simplified presentation of what Rupa Goswami writes about relationships. Very simplified. So what's a relationship? The common basis of interaction between two or more people. What's a relationship? And so he and she have a relationship because they have some common basis, and it can be different because of different relationships. So using contemporary language, this common basis means there's a commodity of exchange or a currency. This is a material relationship that has, you do this for me, I do that for you. That's the basis of our relationship. Thank you very much. Without a common basis, there's no way to relate. Thus, there's no relationship, or at best, a dysfunctional relationship. So the alignment word again, to align needs. Exchange implies, well, both a subject and an object in the relationship. The roles of subject and object alternate. Sometimes you're speaking and others listening. Sometimes they're listening and you're speaking, or vice versa. Sometimes you're offering a gift to them. Sometimes they're offering a gift to you. Sometimes they're disclosing their mind in confidence. Sometimes you're hearing them disclose their mind to you. So the subject-object vacillate, or there's an exchange like that. And the object, just to make it very clear, the person who the action is directed towards. So here's an invisible baby in a baby crib, and everyone's huddled around the baby crib looking at the object. And they're the subjects in that relationship, and there's the object in the relationship. So the subject is the person who feels or acts, and then there's the one who's being acted upon. Those alternating roles, this is just setting boundaries. We're going to move from this. Persons in a relationship are at times the object, and then at others the subject, like in a discussion. What is the commodity of exchange or currency in a relationship? And it's emotion. Although it may be words and gifts and expressing in confidence something, these are types of loving exchange. And there's the emotion connected. That's the primary commodity. And from that emotion, then there's actions. There's some things that we do with one another because of that emotion content. Now we're getting to Rupa Goswami's teachings. And there's Sanskrit terms for all of these, but the primary emotion is love, and then there's secondary emotions listed. It's very elaborate and very interesting, and it's ancient. But there are types of secondary emotions connected to any relationship. Then the primary or the love relationships are in categories 5. So here's the neutral one. That's students, for example, just sitting together. But there can be some other exchange besides just sitting at a desk. There's doing some service for another, or there may be friendship, or there may be parental affection, or there may be conjugal love. Now we'll go back to our example. In a loving relationship, the person who loves, that's the subject. The person who's being loved is the object. And in the relationship, there's an exchange. And there's qualities of those different exchanges. Here's just drilling down a little bit, neutrality, passive. Maybe, let's say, in a higher sense, there may be some regard, like this person in the classroom, they're really smart, or they're funny, or they're something. So there's some regard for them, although there isn't any direct action. Then there's servitude. The basis of the former one is in the next one, but then I want to do something that is an act of kind, just like as you were all waiting for you all to come. We're just here to serve you. It's true. That's why we're here. So, fantastic. That's the neutrality is there, but now there's something else that's going on. Then friendship, supposing we get to know one or another, and then there's more than just from friendship. It becomes a kind of confidential exchange. All of the previous ones plus the service. In paternal affection, one is interested in maintaining another. And in conjugal, there's offering one's body and everything, plus all the previous ones. This is a science of relationships, according to the ancient Indian wisdom, just giving you it in very simple form. So now, the quality of love on the subtopic of our opening slide, pure or impure. What's the difference? Who can say who it's pure? What's the difference? If you don't know who the person is, how can you have a pure relationship? So part of it is to know who you are and to know who the other person is. Supposing you try to have a relationship, you don't know who you are, you don't know who the other person is, you're trying to have a relationship with them. Or you think you have a relationship with them. It's dysfunctional. Supposing you have wrong knowledge about another person, and you have this oscillating thing of changing the position of subject-object, and you're going to end up in a relationship that's not pure. It's confused or dysfunctional. And how do we get there? Well, one of the ways we get there is just convention. We don't really know who we are. We don't know who the other person is. And we're trying to have happiness in relationships. Let me share something with you. Personal. Once upon a time, I was a college kid. That's not the personal part. And something happened. What the kind of inquisitiveness that I had when I was very young kind of went away because I got too busy doing what I was, by culture and the society I grew up in, was told to do, and that is become successful. So successful in academics, successful in sports, successful in social, successful in music, successful. Check the box, I'm a success. But then a little light went on one time, and what I realized is I didn't know who I was. Because it's not just checking those boxes tells me who I am. The circumstance, I don't mind sharing, I'm sharing. The circumstance was, I was in college in the mid-60s, so a few years ago. And during the mid-60s, there was a war in Vietnam. The United States had declared war for fear of communism, and there was communism infiltrating in Vietnam, and they wanted to stop it. So they made a war to stop it. That was extensively the purpose. There was another purpose, but. So I'm in college, pre-med student, dean's list, very successful, and mom and dad said, you got a 1A draft notice, a conscription notice in the mail. You better answer it. And I thought, the war is dumb, and taking somebody out of medical school to fight in that war is double dumb. So I just didn't respond. I just was staying busy, being successful. And they kind of nagged me and said, look, you got to do something or they'll put you in jail. I said, okay, I better do something. And I was given some advice, and the advice was, there's a Christian organization called the Quakers. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. And the Quakers can give you guidance how to fill out a conscientious objector form. I didn't know what it was, but I found out from them what it was. I got a copy. And it's basically saying, what's your conscience that says you can't be part of this war? But the way it said, what are your convictions? This is the question, the first question. Such that you cannot take part in the armed forces of the United States of America. Piece of cake, right? You know how to get A's in exams. You give the answer the teacher wants, and you get an A in your exam. So I started to write the answer to the first question. I didn't get past the first question because I didn't know what my convictions were. I mean, I know how to get an A in the exam, but I didn't know inside. You follow? And a red light started flashing, and a siren started. There's something wrong with this. I'm successful, but I don't know what my convictions are. Wait a minute. And with that question came another 100 questions. Because I wanted to know me. Not just be successful, because that's not who I am. I can do a behavior, but that's not who I am. And so I started asking those questions, which is kind of like what I want to do with you today as well. And be aligned with what my convictions are. Live my life accordingly and have relationships according to who I really am and who the other person really is, as much as I can within my capacity. So that led to a search, a quest, and this and that, the other thing and the other thing. And long story short, I came across 8 different translations of Bhagavad Gita without understanding them. Or I read 7 of them because I knew it was something, but I didn't know what it was saying. And then I read number 8, and with number 8 it became very clear. It gave very clear answers. And this is similar. This is just outlining in principle what constitutes a relationship, and the currency of exchange is love. But how can you have a love relationship when you don't know the other person? And people are trying. They don't know themselves. They don't know the other person. They're trying to have, because we want to love and be loved. But how do you do that if you don't know who you are and who they are? It's a problem. It doesn't work. And we'll see how it doesn't work. So how do we get there? Modern educational institutions, prompted by modern consumer society. Right knowledge is to identify the subject, object. Now we're going to the spiritual platform, the soul. Because there's coverings. There's bodies. And then there's subtle coverings, according to Bhagavad Gita. There's mind. And there's intelligence. And there's our dear friend, false ego. Those are 3 subtle coverings that are inside the gross covering, and none of them are who we really are. And you have to get through those layers to who you are to know who you are. And yoga, and bhakti yoga particularly, helps one understand and connect with and be in alignment with, while using your body, using your mind, using your intelligence to its full capacity, and putting false ego in its place in having a true sense of who you are. There's a false ego and there's a true ego. Ego meaning the sense of identity, of self. And that leads to pure or eternal love. And this knowledge comes from this ancient wisdom literature. And it's non-sectarian and transcendental spiritual teaching, give it everywhere. So now we're doing these definitions of pure and impure relationships. Pure results from knowledge of spiritual identity. Impure results from ignorance of our spiritual identity or who we really are. Now, how do you get there? Is pure love to be had from some outside source? Here's my vanilla, here's my chocolate. Would you like to taste my chocolate? And here's my vanilla. Knowledge of our identity awakens the pure love within us. So the indication is there's a starting point, and that's knowing who you are. That's where Bhagavad Gita begins, knowing who you are. And then the rest is built upon knowing who you are. The relationships are also built upon that. So if we have a pure sense of who we really are, then we can have, there's the potential at least of having pure, loving exchange. But when we're covered by not knowing who we are and have the wrong identity, then the relationships become impure. Some argue that impure relationships based on the body can work. So let's see if it works. Here's some statistics. USA, last year, so many marriages, 35% of new marriages ended in divorce within 15 years. Something's wrong with that idea. That means 3.5 divorces within 1 year out of 1,000 marriages. That's not good. The marriages are going up, and so is the breaking of marriages. So many live births, 4 million something. And abortions, almost 1 million, and over 1 million procured abortions. And so people got together to have children, and they decided, no, we don't want children, so they aborted the child. 28 compared to 100 births. That's not a good statistic. Crime. Crimes against person, crimes against property. Crimes against person, 3,858 crimes against person daily, USA. They'll go global and it becomes more. And crimes against property, bigger number. Relationship violence. There's some statistics about college relationship violence. All forms of relationship violence are prevalent among male and female college students. Almost half of students had experienced relationship violence at some point in their lives. Almost half. More than 1/3 had experienced violence before college, and 1/4 had experienced violence during college. So it's not completely unknown. Just yesterday, we were at a home in an urban part of Chicago. The family that had the home, they liked living way up in the top floor because they like stargazing. They have this big telescope. And he liked looking at the lake, and she liked looking at the stars. And so they got this. And to get into the place, it was like Fort Knox. You know, security this and just to get in. Because there's violence, and property violence, and people violence. It's just urban living. You get more people together. It's not like more people makes it just, it's, go to the country, people leave the door open. Somebody knocks on the door, come on in. That's not city life, not modern life. The exchange of love between one temporary limited body and another temporary limited body ends in temporary limited love. So body-to-body relationship or love is not what real love is. There may be body-to-body exchange, as already indicated, in different types. Friend, parent, conjugal love, and doing some service just on the physical plane. That's fine. But that's not the essence of what real love is. It's not really knowing who you are or who the other person is. But the exchange of love between one eternal, powerful soul and another eternal, powerful soul results in lasting, powerful relationship. Is it true? It's true. There's a hidden ingredient for pure relationships, and that's the inclusion of this little piece over here. So what's at the center? There's different ways of describing what's at the center. Can we just leave that out? You know, in modern times, the God word is something people aren't supposed to talk about. You'd use some other word, but don't use that word. Is it possible to have such a relationship? The answer from Bhagavad Gita and Rupa Goswami, no. Why is it not possible? Because he's already there. This is a verse from Bhagavad Gita, or illustration of a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Here's a fellow who sees within the elephant, the dog eater, the cow, and a learned Brahmin, learned sage or scholarly devoted person. The bodies, the coverings are different, but there's something that's common within each of them, and that's pandita samadarshana. Pandit, you've heard the word? Yes? No, some. Pandit means a learned person. Sama means equal. Darshana means to see. Pandita samadarshana. A learned person sees with equal vision. The coverings are different, but there's something that's same within. And if you can, if or when you can get yourself to the position of seeing that which is eternal and unchanging within, that's a spiritual identity position. And then you can have a meaningful, you don't necessarily engage in the same way with each of these embodied souls. Appropriate to the embodiment, there's engagement, but there's recognition of who that person is, who the person really is the soul within. And that's existing within the heart of every living being, and not just human species, but all species. How does this complete relationship with God work? There's a simple principle. There's these different relationships, but at the center of all those relationships, there's the source of those relationships. This is a nice example. When you want a tree to grow, you can try to put water on the branches and the twigs and the leaves and the fruits of the tree. But the simple solution is you pour water on the root of the tree. And then all the parts of the tree get nourishment. Just find the root of the tree and put water there, and the tree gets water. All the parts of the tree. So there's different species, different personalities. There's differences. That's fine. Find the root of existence and place your, this is yoga. The meaning of yoga is linking with the Supreme. Say it again. The meaning of yoga, it's a Sanskrit word, linking with the Supreme. Different stages of yoga, but it's linking with the Supreme. The physical yoga, hatha yoga. That's part of the meditation process. But it's just the purpose, the goal, the objective of that yoga system is linking with the Supreme. Get on the train, that's where the train's destination is. If you don't know the destination, you may or may not get there, but there's a destination for yoga. That's linking with the Supreme. So here's a nice relationship circle approach, a holistic relationship. So there's the broad society, there's our immediate family, extended family, We have persons that are close to us as guides and friends, and then there's the center. And there's concentric circles around that center. So by placing drops of water in this one spot, then the concentric circles are amplified, supposing you don't have that. Supposing you have, here's a nice example. Supposing this is a pond of water, and we give everybody a pebble. Okay, please place your pebble in the pond of water. Bloop, and a little splash, and concentric circles go out. Somebody else puts their pebble over there, and that's nice until the concentric circles intersect, and then there's a clash. Then the rest of you say on three, everybody throw your pebble into the pond of water. It's chaos. That's called material life. There's no center. There's no central point. There was a celebrated person in the 60s from the Sikh religion. Those of you that are from India, you know about the Sikh religion. So the leading person, very popular person, at least in America, was Yogi Bhajan. And Yogi Bhajan was visiting in Hawaii. He visited our temple, visited my spiritual master in Hawaii at the temple. And he was inviting him to come to a gathering where it was like, the purpose was to get everybody together and love one another. That was, he gave it a nice name. And my spiritual master said, without accepting the center, it won't happen. You'll have a nice time. You'll say nice things and high-level sounding things, but it won't come together unless there's acceptance of a common center. And if there's acceptance of a common center, then the objective that you want can be achieved. So that's where there isn't a center. But when there is a center, well, this is what happens when there isn't a center. But when you have a center, then it's like this. It's our individuality is preserved, which is fine. And there's amplification of the centeredness because we accept the same center. And there is the same center. It's not just, I create a center. That's an ism, a nationalism, or something-ism. And then you get people with this ism clashing with people with that ism, and that's what wars are. On a larger scale, or smaller scale, just this one, where it starts off something and it ends up that. Does it matter if you're part of this or that ism? No, it doesn't matter. What matters is that there's a genuine center. It doesn't matter the outward dress. It doesn't matter the things that you do and don't do, the do's and the don'ts. It's the center is important. So we just did a little Bhagavad Gita overview. And there's a nice little saying. Some of you know who Mother Teresa is. Anyone here not know who is Mother Teresa? Not know. Mother Teresa was a lady who lived in Calcutta, and her life was dedicated to helping destitute people. I mean, the principle is fine, but she was a genuine personality. And because she was so genuine, she was very effective. And because she was so genuine and effective, she became a famous person. But she was famous not because of what she did. She was famous because of who she was. So this was on the wall in her children's, like an orphanage in Calcutta. People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you'll win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. She's abide by virtue. What you spend your years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous, be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have. It'll never be enough. Give your best anyway. Then there's a punchline at the end. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It's never between you and them anyway. Same, just in her way of saying the same. And some friends, I didn't create this, there's a little video, and it says the same thing in a little video, and then we're done. And I hope it works, because it did work before. Good, it works. back to the opening slide. Relationships that are, as the introductory comment was, wholesome and pure and natural and eternal. So, any thoughts that you'd like to share, or questions or comments on this topic? How am I doing with time? I'm on time. All right. Any discussion? You still have that microphone? Oh, you have the microphone. Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
I just had a question on individuality.
Okay.
But, like if we have individuality, wouldn't it mean we have likes and dislikes, and we may not like everybody around us, or we
That's
may not
okay.
like?
There's one thing of liking, and there's another thing of recognizing the spark of life that's within. There are persons, bugs. I did about 2 weeks ago, I was in India. I was at an Ayurvedic clinic. Ayurveda? It's a kind of natural medicine from ancient India texts. The place where I was in Kerala. And during the particular time of year I was in Kerala, it was a season for little black bugs. So when I woke up in the morning, not just dozens, but where they came from, I don't know. And every morning for the whole month, I had roommates. I didn't really like them, because by nature, I don't want to do violence to them, but I don't want them as roommates either. So I don't have to like the little bugs, but I have to respect them because they're life form in that little bug body. So we made some deal. I helped them find the door and the great outdoors instead of in my room, and they were happy and I was happy. And so being respectful to others that you may not have a liking for, that's not a contradiction. I mean, I have a liking for others than those little black bugs. And there may be people besides bugs that I have more of a liking for and less. But respect is there because there's the life within. And then I relate according to the reality of the situation, that life is within and the coverings are different. So then I navigate my life recognizing fundamentally respect, and then there are things that are more conducive for what's my interest, needs, as they say these days. How's that? Here we go. You have the next microphone topic.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, what are the steps to seeing someone in a wholesome and pure way? Like, what actionable things can we do?
The actionable thing is those things that help you, and I know the things that help me. We'll just say something that helps me is Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. The first instruction of Bhagavad Gita is to know who you are as opposed to who you aren't. It's not them, it's you. Starts with know who you are. And then you start peeling up the layers of who you're not. And a big peel is the body. I have a body. The body has needs. And I take care of the needs, but that's not who I am. And et cetera, et cetera. So if there's a discipline the Sanskrit word is sadhana. If there's a practice that you find works for you to make that connection A and B, less misidentifying with who you aren't, B, identifying with who you are. So reading Bhagavad Gita and for me, sound or meditation through sacred sounds is a very effective way of connecting with who I am. I learned it. I mean, I didn't understand it right away, but gradually over my college days, I came to understand. Sound is very powerful, and spiritual sound is especially powerful. So connect with it. This is something actionable activity, spiritual sound that you relate to, and it helps you focus on who you are as opposed to who you aren't. Can I ask you a question? What part of the country are you from? The world.
I was born in Korea, but I'm
Korea.
like lived around the south of the United States.
And in your growing up or in your course of being here or being there, do you know anything about Buddhism? A little bit?
All of what I know is from college.
Okay. So just to use it for example, in Buddhism, there's a system of helping you focus, mindfulness and staying focused on what's meaningful to you. And it's like, boom. You familiar with that? A little bit? Yes. There's sometimes there's bowls, and sometimes it's a hanging gong, and sometimes but it's sound that helps you get away from distraction and be focused. And what you focus upon is going to be different for different persons. My point is, I could elaborate if we had more time, but sound is very powerful. And if there's a sacred sound that is the same vibration quality as who you are, and you have that mantra meditation, it then connects you with, in a practical, actionable way, it connects you more with who you are and helps you become free from the absorption in who you aren't. It works. I mean, it works. Besides me subjectively, there's lots of scientific studies on it, and it works. There's different qualities of sound, and spiritual sound has a special quality. So find those are two. So become acquainted with ancient wisdom literature that teaches knowing who you are, as the message of that ancient wisdom text, and then sound vibration that helps you stay there. And you do that every day. That's yoga. Something that's you do every day, and you have confidence it's going to get you to a good place. Yoga. Doesn't have to be, the asanas. Doesn't have to be hatha yoga. It's a principle. So that's an actionable item. So here's another slide at the end. I'll go to the slide at the end. There's a mantra. So mantra meditation. After I gave you a quick summary of, I wanted to get answers to what my convictions were, and I ended up with this. As a process, an actionable process item, after having experimented with maybe a dozen different mantras, because I had an understanding that sound will be very helpful for me to get to that place where I know what my convictions are, I know who I am. And this is the one that was most effective.
I was going to ask how, so you kind of explained how you kind of like figure out who you are and your spiritual identity. How does that like translate into knowing other people?
It's a starting point. It's not like figure it out, but it becomes awakened. I'm just changing the language a little bit. who we really are is already within us. It's knowledge that's awake. It's kind of like a seed, and there's life within a seed, but it stays in a dormant state for a long, long time until you germinate the seed. But then the life comes out of the seed when you germinate it properly. When you start to understand who you are, your consciousness is on a different platform than the body consciousness or the ignorance consciousness. And as consciousness becomes lighter and brighter, then you can begin to not only understand yourself better, but start to look at others in a similar fashion, because the light is brighter and the ignorance is reduced. The covering is reduced. And then an impetus to understand others better is the impetus to love and be loved. It's all species have it. It's there, it's intrinsic to who we really are. So when your consciousness starts to raise to understanding better who you really are, then you start to explore the potential of others being who they are also. And wisdom literature helps guide you in that process and the exchanges with others that are conducive to that kind of an experience of seeing who they are, along with seeing yourself. But it starts with yourself, the individual consciousness, and then collective consciousness, and then cosmic consciousness. Yes. She give her the microphone. You have a soft voice too.
My first question is, to what extent are we in control of who we truly are? Like, to what extent is this a static identity? And my second question is, could you elaborate a bit more on what you mean by eternal? Like, does this extend beyond our physical bodies?
The second question is easy. The first question, I wasn't so clear what you're asking. No, but let me just do the second one. Everything material has a beginning and an end. It comes into being according to the Vedic texts, these ancient wisdom texts. Birth, growth, producing byproducts like offspring, maintenance for some time, dwindling, and death. It's the time energy, time factor moving in cycles. Time moves in cycles. The Vedic wisdom teaches. Not just summer, fall, winter, spring, and day and night, but time moves matter, and it moves in cycles. So anything that's temporal or comes into being will go out of being. So eternal, it doesn't come into being. What's that? That's the soul. And that which is of this other realm or other reality, that's also eternal. So let's go back to when I was a college kid and I was like scratching my head saying, what's this and what's that? So I had a certain conviction, which I still have. And I'll say it in three things. Beside all of this stuff, which I'm part of, I'm engaged with it, but there's a higher reality. I have firm conviction. There is a higher reality. This is the eternal question. And the second is, I don't know what it is. That was that was me as a college kid. There is this higher reality, I don't know what it is. The third was, I want to know what it is. The alignment word, I want to be connected with that. It's a yoga word, I want to be connected with whatever that is. So that's in response to what does eternal mean? It doesn't come into being, it doesn't go out of being, because it's eternally existing. And besides the temporal, which we're very much familiar with, there's that which doesn't come into being, it doesn't go out of being, and it's us. We're part of that. We're part of, a small part, a fragmental part of this big whole that's eternal. And it's who we are. That's what eternal is. There's time, energy doesn't work there. Time is eternal. And things are eternal, beings are eternal, forms are eternal, happiness is eternal, relationships, everything is eternal. It's another reality, it's another realm. And the happiness in that realm is also eternal. I want it. I don't know, the college kid again. I don't know what it is, but I know it exists. I have confidence. I have a deep inside conviction it exists. So that's the second question. You want to go more on that?
So when you say like who we truly are, does that equate to the soul then?
Yes.
Which is eternal?
But so, along with saying that we're eternal, there's more than we're eternal. There's form. And there's forms in this realm of eternal. And there's a center from which all forms are part. That's this center, the drops of water on the center, the drops of water that don't have the same center. That center also is a person, loving person, an unlimited, eternal, endlessly happy, wants us to be happy, and we're in la la land trying to find happiness where there isn't happiness. And they want happiness for us, and that's part of their happiness, is that loving exchange. So that's part of this higher reality. It takes a while to get there, but that's the description. Let's go to back to your first question. Your first question was, say it again.
So to what extent are we in control of who we really are?
Oh.
Is it predetermined?
The spiritual identity is eternal. It's not just predetermined. Predetermined indicates you can create it. It's predetermined. It's not become something. Become a PhD scholar in something and become celebrated. Become something, or whatever someone's aspiration might be. Not like that. It's not becoming. It's awakening who you really are. Supposing I have a bag of seeds, and some of them are white flowers, some of them are red flowers, some of them are blue flowers. Now your question is it predetermined? The seed is what the seed is. Now these seeds aren't, those are material seeds, but inside the seed there's life. And the form that soul may take as the form of a blue flower, red flower, yellow flower, that's a temporal. But then there's something that's eternal with the soul. So your question is it predetermined? It's eternal. It's awakening that which is eternal. To make a worldly comparison, like a seed is a blue flower, or it's a red flower, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's wheat, or maybe it's a banana tree, or maybe it's whatever it is, a seed of something, but that's describing the covering. But then the soul inside is eternal. Back to your second question. And so your question is it predetermined? It's eternal. It's not becoming, it's awakening. Awakening what we've forgotten. That's yoga. Interesting, huh? It's a different mindset. Other discussion? Yes. Here. You take this one, I'll take that one.
I was kind of building off of her question. I guess it makes sense that to be like spiritually we are eternal, but I guess what about our material body and our actions in this world, or not this world? Yeah, in this world, like how in control of that are we?
Would you want it Sanskrit or English?
I don't know Sanskrit, so I'm both.
We're not in control. We this much we have control of. We have free will. Okay, fix it. We have free will, and that's eternal. And how we direct the free will, up, down, sideways, left, or right, that's in our control. And the rest is responsive to our free will choices. That's just, you know the word karma. That's a Sanskrit word. See, you know some Sanskrit. So based upon our choices, our free will choices, we do something or don't do something. And with that, there's karma. It can be good karma. It can be bad karma. It can be mixed karma. And since we're always doing something every moment, karma is very complicated. Yes? Very complicated. And for every action, this is Newton's law. It's an equal and opposite reaction. Karma works like that too. And we're always making choices, which is that much is in our control. Supposing some bad karma comes my way. Do I have choices how I'm going to respond to it? Of course I do. It doesn't stop what's coming my way, but how I respond and the choices I make in response to what's coming my way, good, bad, mixed, that's in my control. So your question is, how much control do we have? How much independence do we have on this eternal thing that we are? You have free will. And you can choose by right knowledge to ascend to a plane of higher consciousness. And you could choose, no, something else. And based upon those choices, that much control you have. And otherwise, it's you can say destiny, or it's karmically determined. More, you want to say something further? Okay.
Influence our. Oh, sorry. Does karma not influence our decision to, let's say, elevate our consciousness or not elevate it, or does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It conditions us to some degree. Supposing, for example, by my karma, I get the body of a dog. I hope that doesn't happen, but if that happens because of karma, then what am I going to do? I'll wag my tail and bark and chew on bones. That's what I'll do. And somebody, you can train a dog to sit, and jump through hoops, and you can, there's conditioning because of karma, and then the association that you keep. So in the human form of life, what's very special is there's an opportunity to go beyond karma. And when I gave this little outline of Bhagavad Gita, the starting point is to know who you are. The next is your work. There's I, and then there's mine. And the mine is my work, and the fruits of my work, that's mine, because it came from me. If I'm in the bodily conception, then I become conditioned by engaged in the fruits of work. So there's systems of yoga to go eventually completely beyond the influence of karma. Is it possible? Yes. Is it common? No. Common people are bound by the fruits of their work. They respond to the karma that comes their way according to their conditioning. I walk across, a dog's yard and they're going to bark. Woof, woof. I'm the protector of my property, my master's property. Woof, woof. Get away from my property. Not his property. Anyway. Conditioning influences behaviors, yes. But there's a way to become free from that conditioning. That's yoga. The principle of yoga, and then gradually elevation of consciousness through yoga practice. Okay, I think we should end. How are we doing with time? We went way past time.
2 minutes, but
Okay.
as long as everybody is happy and if they want to ask any more last questions,
Let's have music.
Okay. Thumbs up.
Questions, music.
All right. 5 minutes for kirtan with musical instrument. And that mantra is what we will be doing as a singing exercise, meditation. You're more than welcome to clap in rhythm, but he will lead and then you'll follow. It's very simple. You want the mic? We've done in the past.
Okay.
I don't think that.
about transcendental sound and the practice of mantra meditation. So we're going to do this meditation. So I want to ask one thing. You're going to stand up. This, in the Bhakti tradition, is considered the most powerful form of mantra meditation. And we do it as a community. It's called the community of musical meditation in mantra. The word in Sanskrit is kirtan. And as a community, we're going to become the Sankirtan. San is a Sanskrit word that is called Sangha, or community. So we're the community of chanters of mantras. So I'm going to sing, and you're going to listen very carefully. You listen to the melody, you listen to the rhythm. And it's chant and response. So I sing, you listen, you sing, and I listen. And that's how we become a community. And we're going to be chanting this mantra right here. And this mantra has 3 words: Hare, Krishna, and Rama. It's a mantra that is addressing the divine, supreme source of everything. And becomes very powerful when we do it together, because it creates this synergy that we all share when we do it. So I'm going to sing. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare. That was very good. Now we're going to step it a little further. Because when we do this, when we sing, when the part of the experience of the community of Kirtan is that there is this experience of joy. And when you have the experience of joy, you usually dance. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what our spiritual master, he gave us this way of dancing when we chant. He called this the Swami step. It's a very simple thing. So you're going to raise your arms. Everybody. You raise your arms, but the reason of raising your arms is because you're reaching out. Our spiritual master tells us that when we call to the divine, we feel like children, like a little baby that is calling for mother or father to please pick me up. Take me from this place of suffering, of confusions, of stress, and bring me to that divine space, that space that His Holiness was speaking about, the space of eternity, the space of love. So we reach out and we sing like a child. So when we sing, we have that mood. So now, reach out, and then as you sing, you do like this. Huh? Left and right. And then follow the rhythm. Okay, we're gonna sing. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. How's it feel? It's really good. It's really good. We usually in the Bhakti Yoga Club here, we have a kirtan time. Please come. So we can do this not for 5 minutes, but we can do it for a whole hour. It's really cool. Thank you so much. I think now we're going to have a dinner for everybody.
Right, yes, we have food here, so please take a lunch and here is